is Pete Buttigieg, the first night he was in, this is the first debate he was in the crosshairs, right? And so the question was, how was he going to respond as the target of attacks? And he's a really good counterpuncher. He's really good. Now, I don't know if afterwards there's going to be some impact on his favorable standing because he did take some blows from Elizabeth Warren and Klobuchar, but his counterpunches were sharp.
Who do you think could appeal to swing voters in that group? Just watching last night.
Well, I think Pete Buttigieg has done a great job. But I think, one, because he obviously plays down that centrist lane, but also he shows he can fight. I mean, what I thought was striking was the way he was so prepared. And it reminds me back to what Kamala Harris was not able to do. You remember Kamala Harris had a big moment. She became the shiny object for a little while. And then the next time on the debate stage, she got pummeled and she couldn't handle it.
Right. By Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, by everybody.
Well, but it's not, wait, if you couldn't handle Tulsi Gabbard.
Right, sure.
I get your point.
And so, you know, Mayor Pete knew this was coming and he was ready. And he showed that not only is he a centrist, but he could also fight with Donald Trump. The other thing that I found very interesting is that no one goes after Joe Biden still. Like, he's the clear national frontrunner, yet I guess people are not buying, his opponents are not buying into his strategy that he's going to be able to get past Iowa and New Hampshire and still be viable.
Well, I have another theory. I think there's fear of looking like you're doing Trump's work. There's a penalty there, Carol, I think, or at least a fear that there could be a penalty.
There are multiple ways you can go after him. You don't have to go after him on
no doubt, but I wonder how much of a shield that has been.
It does feel like there is a sense that if you go after him just generally, even if it is somehow that he's already taking a beating from Trump and that it is kind of doing the president's bidding for them. I think, you know, he seemed more than happy to sit back and let everybody else, you know, trade barbs and argue and attack each other. And I think that they feel really good about his performance, his team, particularly his answer that you played about the Republicans.
That's easily his best line of any debate.
And he clearly worked on it, and he really drove it home, and he tied it to his family and all the things that he's been under attack for.
I think another development last night was how comfortable Bernie was grabbing the progressive lane again and how uncomfortable Elizabeth Warren was fighting him for it. Let me play a couple of exchanges last night on the issue of health care with the two of them. Here's Elizabeth Warren, then you'll hear Bernie Sanders.
Here's how I approach this. I want to do the most good I can for the most people as quickly as possible. On day one, I'm going to attack the prices on commonly used drugs like EpiPens and insulin and bring down those prices. The president can do that, I love saying this, all by herself. And I will do it. I'm going to make available to people for a full health care coverage. For 135 million people, it'll be at no cost at all, and they can opt into that system.
I think we will pass a Medicare for all single-payer system, and I will introduce that legislation in my first week in office. When the American people understand that Medicare for all expands Medicare to cover home health care, dental care, eyeglasses, and hearing aids, and does it at a cost far, far lower than what some of my opponents are talking about, you know what? We're going to have the American people behind us. We will have Congress behind us.
Thank you. One of the great complaints we hear here, you hear from the Sanders wings, nobody ever says, you know, he does well, but they think, oh, he's just saddled in this progressive lane. Look, I thought he had his best performance that I've seen in a while, and he owned it in a way that Elizabeth Warren didn't, and you could see, I'm curious to see what does she do now?
Bernie Sanders is, I wouldn't say it's a surge, but if you look at the polling, he is, you know, we're seeing a small comeback on him.
I think he recovered from the heart attack politically. He recovered from it physically. Now he's recovered from it politically.
I think he does. I mean, he does not get enough credit for being able to do what he's doing after suffering the heart attack that he suffered. And yes, I think he had a very good night last night. I think he's generally a pretty good debater, pretty consistently steady.
He had some humor. It was a warmer Bernie than I'm used to seeing.
Yes. Where he talked about
love Amy. He even parried her back pretty well. I agree that she got a hit on him, but he had a smile. And wasn't Bernie of 4 years ago.
Right. If you're a progressive and you're looking for the most authentic progressive in the race, then you have to be looking at Bernie Sanders, because he did not equivocate when it came to Medicare for all. He said, yes, taxes will go up, but costs will go down.
Elizabeth Warren seemed less comfortable.
Less comfortable, and also too authentic. She risks looking inauthentic in the sense of that she's not owning the policies that she's put forward. She's kind of calibrating and changing her views. And the Buttigieg hit on her about her fundraising isn't helpful. I mean, voters don't like hypocrisy. And so, and even, you know, part of what Trump's appeal was is that he's seen as authentic, and he means what he says or whatever. And people related to him in that way, and she's in a dangerous place, and she doesn't feel comfortable with it. She's clearly trying to calibrate for winning the general, or to, and it's not a place that she comes off looking very good in.
I have yet to find the campaign. I can't think of one where campaign finance issues decide things and motivate voters. And I know somebody's going to be on screen saying, it motivates me. It might. But, Brendan, it rarely does.
Well, if it's an issue that animates the far left, and if you're on the far left, you don't need